Welcome back to the second part of the Silent Hill Deep Dive. I had a feeling you'd be here today.
It was foretold by gyromancy.
Today we'll be viewing the narrative through another protagonist's lens, Heather Mason. Full disclosure, Silent Hill 3 is my favourite entry in the entire franchise, and that is because of this absolute queen. Unlike the protagonists in the other Silent Hill entries, Heather is the most complex and interesting character. The franchise is not known for, well, let's just say, characters with much personality.
Oh, man.
Now, let's dive into Silent Hill 3. From the get-go, we as the player are thrown into the deep end. With no map, a 17-year-old girl named Heather finds herself trapped at an amusement park. She is attacked by monsters and only has a pocket knife to protect herself with. Heather does her best to track it forward, coming across a roller coaster track. Walking down, the roller coaster comes to life and it's not looking good for our girl. But it was all just a bad dream. Heather wakes up at Happy Burger and leaves. She calls her dad, letting him know she's on her way home. Shortly after, she realizes that she's being followed by an older man named Douglas Cartland. Douglas tries to convince Heather to talk to him, telling her he has information regarding her birth. However, Heather isn't interested and continues walking away. Seems old mate Doug won't take no for an answer, so Heather retreats into the bathroom. From there, she jumps out the window to go outside, but a van blocks her exit, prompting her to walk back into the shopping mall. The mall is now strangely deserted. With nowhere to go, she walks into a store. There, she sees the same monster as the one from her dream. Finding a gun on the floor, she pumps the thing full of lead, defeating it. In one of the back rooms, Heather spots a key, but she'll need something to help her out. She walks into a bakery, and a meme was born. It's bread. It's bread. It's bread. But the reason why we're here is to grab those tongs. Using them, we grab the key and let ourselves into the bookstore. Just like in Silent Hill 2, this game has a puzzle difficulty. And if you're playing this on hard, I hope you've brushed up on your Shakespeare. With the code, Heather unlocks the door and meets Claudia. Just like Dahlia, Claudia is a part of the Cooked Unit squad. Talking about paradise, needing Heather's power, etc. Claudia continues, urging Heather to remember her true self. When Heather asks Claudia if she is responsible for the monster shenanigans, she smirks and simply says it was the hand of God, before walking away as Heather starts to get a little woozy. When Heather is able to stand, Claudia is gone. With nowhere else to go, we take the elevator down to the pits of the other world. Oh, how I didn't miss you. A radio falls out of the ceiling, prompting Heather to pick it up. Of course, just like in the previous games, this is our trustworthy monster sensor. The mall has completely shifted into otherworld mode, so Heather must find a way to get herself out of this nightmare. We find some goodies, including a torch and, hello, a bulletproof vest. The vest does slow Heather down, but better safe than sorry. Upstairs, a staticky TV starts playing a video of Cheryl from the first game, just like the one Harry encountered at the mall in Silent Hill. Afterwards, the TV returns to static. Heather has no idea what any of this means. In a restaurant, Heather grabs a pipe, if you prefer melee, and finds a barbecued dog with a key that we need. We're just gonna move past that. Finding a moonstone, we unlock the moon inscripted door and descend the ladder to square off with the first boss of the game. This cheeky fucker is known as Splitworm. It likes to play a game of whack-a-mole. Luckily, Heather is an undefeated champion and whacks it good. The mall returns back to normal, albeit deserted. Douglas pops up and Heather basically tells him to get. It is now time to go to the subway in hopes of getting home. Well, bad news. The monsters are back. Travelling from one platform to the next, Heather attempts to get to the right one. But of course, in true Silent Hill fashion, every goddamn door is locked. At the concourse, Heather picks up a newspaper with a report of an accident where a person took their own life at the subway station. A short while later, she comes across a magazine with a chilling article. The article states that those who die by their own hand or in an accident may not realise that they're dead. Their soul is then attached to their place of death, where the souls take up residence and haunt the place. This is actually interesting because if Heather continues walking down to the tracks, a ghost behind her, breathing erratically, can actually push her down, and if she doesn't get back up in time, well, the article tried to warn us. In an abandoned carriage, Heather gets herself a nice shoddy upgrade, and this chunky monkey decides to say hello. Known as insane cancer, it takes serious firepower to get these assholes to stay dead, so if you can, just leg it. Eventually unlocking the gate to our destination, Heather jumps down the platform in hopes of escaping through a side door, only for these asshats to start attacking. Is that a train I hear? Oh shit, get your ass up, Heather. Ooh, close call. We board the Hell Express and keep jumping carriages like we are trying to escape a junkie on a train commute. The train comes to a halt, and with nowhere else to go, it's sewer time, baby. In this stinky cesspool, we come across a note from a crew member who lost his buds to a monster lurking from beneath the sewers. While we do not have a hand grenade, we give him a nice toasty bath using a hairdryer. When playing on New Game Plus, you can drop your rusty old pipe and trade it for this super sweet upgrade. Granted, you are modest and honest in your answers. The sewer goddess deems us worthy, and check out these sweet pipes. There are plenty of unlockables, which I will talk about later in the video. Finally free from the sewers, we reach the next destination, the Hilltop Center. Now, Heather is a smart cookie and uses a mattress to cushion her fall down to the floor below. Also, inspecting the wall, we can smash it open to find a corpse. Ooh, that ain't good. But at least we get the super sweet silencer for our handgun. The corpse and the silencer are a nod to Solid Snake, a character in the Metal Gear Solid series. Also brought to you by Konami. Shortly after entering the building, Heather enters a storeroom full of mannequins and they are just waiting to give us a heart attack. Before leaving the room, we are treated to a nice jump scare. Exploring the different levels in the building, an art gallery on the 5th floor with a now missing painting has a very interesting inscription. Flame purifies all. I don't like the sound of that. Seems a little culty. There are also other paintings like this one. $5,000? Get out of here. Heather's line deliveries are just top-notch. What a queen. In a storeroom adjacent to the gallery, we get the best melee weapon available on a first playthrough. With some items needed for our little expedition down the defunct elevator, we finally access the 2nd floor. In a showroom, Heather inspects a bathtub, which starts filling up with blood. Heather then loses consciousness. Coming to, Heather realizes that she's back in the other world. Entering an office, Heather finds a photo with a message written, "Find the Holy One. Kill her," on the back of it. In the next room, we meet Vincent, another prominent member of the Cooked Unit Club. Heather quickly realizes that there's something wrong with Vincent, so she deduces that he is involved with Claudia. This pisses Vincent off something fierce, who does not want to be associated with Claudia. He mentions that Claudia was brainwashed by a crazy old hag, alluding to Dahlia, of course, as Vincent refers to her as Heather's mother. Heather is confused as all hell, and Vincent slyly makes a comment about Harry, Heather's dad being a sneaky boy, and Heather is ready to rip his head off. Vincent claims he knows everything about the origins of Heather, what happened in Silent Hill 17 years ago, and when Heather asks for answers. Vincent isn't much for spoilers and tells her to enjoy herself. After leaving the room, Heather can inspect the door, but she ain't going back in there with that creep. Rightfully so. A chemistry book gives us a hint about organically starting a fire, needing specific items. Grabbing a pork liver, oxidol, and matches, Heather uses the items to burn the painting, revealing a secret door. Heading through the door, we see this. I always thought that this was the embodiment of Lisa Garland, but according to Masahiro Ito, the men responsible for giving us nightmares and creating monster designs for Silent Hill responded to a fan's question. So that's a piece of trivia I wasn't even aware of until making this video, so there you go. Walking down a stairwell, we can access the 4th floor and grab a coin to get ourselves a nice drinky poo, but instead we get a key to unlock a door on the 1st floor. Blocking our exit is this big boy, named Glutton. Unfortunately, there is no way to defeat it. Bullets and hitting it won't work. In a now unlocked room, Heather reads from a fairy tale book about how to defeat the monster by uttering a certain phrase.
Tu fui ego eris. Weird writing. What was that?
The phrase tu fui ego eris is Latin, which directly translates to "you were, I will be," or "as you are, so once was I, as I am, so you will be." The monster is no longer blocking our path, so it's time to get home. Heather finally makes it back to her apartment, and what she finds is something she never expected to. Harry Mason, the man, the myth, the legend, is gone. Killed by the missionary, a monster summoned by Claudia to do her dirty work. Claudia's motivation was partly revenge, but also for Heather to remember her past. Claudia needs Heather to be filled with anger and hatred. Claudia doesn't explain this part of her plan and leaves Heather with her flunky. This guy can't see anything, but he sure as shit can hear us. If he hears you, he uses his arms to shield himself, preventing any damage dealt. So just sneak up on him and pummel the bitch. Afterwards, Heather goes downstairs, only to find Douglas. She partly blames Douglas, telling him to leave. Douglas ends up staying anyway, and the two put a sheet over Harry, but there's no time to grieve or for a burial just yet. Upon leaving her apartment, Douglas mentions that he met with Vincent. Vincent gave them a tip to look for a man named Leonard once they reach Silent Hill, along with the town's map. Douglas also gives Heather Harry's journal that is addressed to her. During the car ride, Douglas tells Heather he has been to Silent Hill once, investigating a missing persons case. He soon realized just how messed up the town really was. Heather is starting to remember more about her previous life, Alessa's life. She gives Douglas the ending recap of the first game. This cutscene is just so powerful and moving. Heather's emotions, her pain, her grief, portrayed by her voice actor Heather Morris, is just next level.
I never had the chance to tell you how happy you made me.
Heather and Douglas finally arrive in Silent Hill. Douglas tells Heather to check out the hospital while he goes to investigate on his own elsewhere. Before heading to the hospital, we can inspect Heaven's Night, the strip bar where Maria from Silent Hill 2 worked. I always wondered if the second game had connections to the first game, or perhaps if there are other Silent Hill towns like different universes and such. I'm guessing it was easier to use the locations from the second game. I mean, the maps are identical. And while I thought Alchemilla was renamed to Brookhaven Hospital, they're actually two separate places. Alchemilla is a general hospital, while Brookhaven specializes in mental health. But that's where our witness Leonard is currently staying at, so off to Brookhaven we go. Entering the hospital, Heather reads a letter addressed to her written by a man named Stanley Coleman, also gifting her a doll. There is no clear connection between Stanley and Heather. Not much is known about him other than the fact that he is a serious creep. Stalking and predatory behaviour portrayed by men towards Heather is a key theme in the game. From her first interaction with Douglas, who follows her around, prompting her to run into the bathroom to escape, the ghost from the subway, although that is an optional occurrence. And now Stanley, the worst offender of all. Each note that Heather finds paints Stanley as a deluded, unhinged individual. His obsession with a girl that he has never met makes it all the more terrifying. He is aware of Heather, but she has no idea who he is. The documents reveal that Leonard had psychopathic tendencies, stabbing someone over a religious dispute. Geez, he's one of those fanatics. Nonetheless, Heather investigates the different floors of the hospital, where she receives a phone call from Leonard, the guy that she's looking for. He mistakes Heather for Claudia at first. And oh boy, is Leonard pissed at Claudia. Realizing that it's Heather on the phone, Leonard reveals he is Claudia's father. Leonard senses that Heather has a deep hatred for Claudia, and he wants to team up with her to take Claudia down using a seal, as he too hates Claudia with a burning passion. He tells Heather to meet him in his confined room, and upon arriving in the hallway, a door materializes as this room was not there before. Walking into the room, Heather finds herself trapped in a maze. Running through the hallways, Heather spots the Halo of the Sun, the cult sigil, which up until now has been used as a safe point. Interacting with it, a cutscene of Lisa plays from the video Harry watched in the first game. Moving forward, Heather begins climbing a ladder and spots a recurring figure, Baltiel. Baltiel is seen periodically in the game. There's a chance encounter with him. If Heather should die, he drags her body away, allowing her to resurrect. He isn't protecting Heather, but rather what is inside of her. We are now in the other world, which, is not ideal. In one of the rooms, Heather inspects a mirror. Suddenly the room starts filling up with blood. And why is the door locked? Let me out. Apparently, if you stay longer in a room, Heather will die, but I am not going to find out because I don't remember the last time I saved. In another room, Heather receives a birthday phone call. In humorous Silent Hill fashion, the caller can't make up his mind on the celebrant's age and tells her that Leonard is a murderer before hanging up. Grabbing some essentials, like a bag of blood, and heading down to the basement, we grab a key to unlock the door on the first floor, leading Heather to a ritual room. Using the bag of blood, a new passage opens, revealing a ladder. Going down, Heather finally meets Leonard. Turns out that he did not believe in Claudia's vision, but rather had his own take on God. Basically, Leonard had his own VIP list for paradise, as he believed only those chosen would be at God's mercy. Heather realizes that teaming up with Leonard is a bad idea, and he turns on her immediately. He accuses Heather of wanting to steal his seal, calling her a heretic, which of course prompts a boss fight. We kick his ass back to hell, and we steal his seal. Leaving the hospital, a cutscene shows Vincent and Claudia having a conversation in Heather's motel room. Claudia is pissed that Vincent led Heather to Leonard, but what she doesn't know is that her father was in possession of the seal of Metatron, which supposedly will prevent the birth of God. Vincent likes his lavish lifestyle on this planet and doesn't care for any paradise that Claudia keeps yapping about. Vincent, the master of gaslighting and manipulation, reveals that Leonard was extremely abusive towards Claudia before he was committed indefinitely and stripped off his ranking within the cult. We take control of Heather and run to our room. Inside, Vincent has made himself at home. Heather asks him about Douglas's whereabouts. Vincent tells Heather that he went out but left her a message to check out the church on the other side of town where Claudia resides. The only way through is the Lakeside Amusement Park, the very same one from Heather's dream at the beginning of the game and where Harry fought Sybil 17 years ago. Arriving at the park, Heather starts to feel a little woozy, just like at the mall after meeting Claudia. Heather enters a souvenir shop and there she grabs a key to open the roller coaster control room. I don't like where this is going. Subtle foreshadowing from Heather's nightmare, perhaps? Heather turns the controls off and begins walking on the tracks. Bad idea. The controls turn on and the roller coaster comes to life. Heather has no choice but to jump off the track. This immediately cuts to a scene between Claudia and Douglas, who are both at the amusement park. Turns out Claudia hired Douglas to track Heather down, but he's starting to question her motives. Douglas no longer wants any part of it and threatens to shoot Claudia. The scene then abruptly ends. Going back to Heather, she luckily landed safely. On her way, she comes across the Borley-haunted museum, and our guide may have psychopathic tendencies. Upon exiting the museum, a bright red light tries to cook Heather to perfection, and all of a sudden in my panic, I forgot how to use the damn controller and bumped into every wall. Narrowly escaping, Heather manages to blast the gate open, finding an injured Douglas. Heather begins to feel empathy towards him. She just lost her father, and right now, Douglas is the closest person to resemble a guardian figure in her life. Douglas also reveals that he had a son that died during a failed robbery, and perhaps this is why he wants to make things right with Heather, ensuring her safety. Despite their heart-to-heart, Heather turns around to leave and Douglas pulls out his gun, deciding whether he should shoot her to prevent the birth of God, but ultimately cannot bring himself to do it. While exploring a shop, Heather finds Douglas's notebook, giving us more info about his investigation into Heather. As we know, he was hired by Claudia to find Heather, believing Claudia's misinformation that Harry kidnapped Heather all these years ago. There was no official police investigation into the kidnapping. As we know, the local police does not take kindly to the cult. The only link to the case was about Alessa Gillespie, who died at the age of 7 due to a fire incident. Heather and Harry lived in Portland for about 5 years. However, this would soon change as Harry got wrapped up in a murder investigation. A cult member tracked Harry and Heather down. Harry killed him, claiming it was in self-defense. Harry was never prosecuted, allowing the pair to move away, changing their names. Before Heather heads to the carousel, she finds a note written by Harry 17 years ago while searching for Cheryl. Despite believing Dahlia's claims that the manifestation of Alessa was really a demon that captured Cheryl, he had his doubts. Heather enters the carousel and faces off with the memory of Alessa, Heather's doppelganger, who has dark hair and is covered in blood. During the fight, she pulls out all sorts of weapons on us. Heather finally kills her, the body disappears, and a message in blood reads, "It would be better for myself to die. After all, it's nothing to be afraid of. That child, that demon. When I think of the endless pain it will bring when it is birthed, I decided, instead of the suffering and cruelty I endured in that sick room, that I would like to bestow a more gentle and peaceful death on myself. Why do I resist? I never thought of myself as such a fool." She is of course referring to Heather, who is now the reincarnation of Alessa. Alessa believed that it would be better for Heather to die right now to prevent the birth of God, but Heather isn't willing to just give up. She wants to confront Claudia and prevent the ritual from happening on her own terms. We've made it to our final destination, the chapel. Heather finally catches up to Claudia and reveals that she remembers her past life. Claudia is elated, thinking that the ritual will go ahead as planned. However, Heather tells her that she has changed her mind, no longer wanting to bring paradise, but it's too late. God is already in Heather's womb, which is why Heather would have these, well, we'll just call them mystical pregnancy contractions. And they are now becoming more frequent as God is ready to be delivered. Heather's hatred and rage are only speeding up the process of God being born, and Claudia knows this, which is why she put her through harrowing situations like killing Harry, further intensifying Heather's hatred. Afterwards, Heather grabs a tarot card, which is needed to open the door in Alessa's room for the final confrontation. Unfortunately, we need to find 5 of them. In an optional cutscene, Heather enters a confessional booth and hears the confession from a weeping woman seeking repentance. The confessant is possibly Dahlia, but it hasn't been confirmed. The woman confesses to her wicked ways, begging to see her child once more, and also prays for the soul of a girl whose life she has taken. This is possibly about Alessa and Cheryl respectively, as Dahlia was responsible for all of those crimes. Heather is left with a choice, the only choice decision in the game, to either forgive the woman or to say nothing. Should Heather forgive her, she is stepping into a god role, which is bad karma. This ties into the bad ending, which I will expand on soon. I chose to stay silent and left the booth because it ain't my problem. During our exploration of the church, Heather hears cries and footsteps beyond the painting. Moving it, Heather continues to investigate. In the library, she bumps into Vincent. The two discuss the whole God ordeal, with Vincent admitting that he likes his life, and it simply would be an inconvenience to him, should God be born, etc. Heather is pretty pissed that Vincent is just using her to stop Claudia, as he states that only Heather can stop all of this, with her power, which Vincent doesn't possess. Heather is amused by his explanations of being a little bitch, and he snaps right at her. Vincent brands Heather a murderer, and when she defends herself, saying that they're just monsters, Vincent then follows up with this unnerving question.
They look like monsters to you?
Heather, who is young and impressionable, begins doubting herself, believing that perhaps she has been killing innocents this whole time. But Vincent is all like, I was just joking, Heather. I see Vincent has been taking Joking 101 lessons from Eddie.
I was just joking, James.
He asks Heather if she got the seal of Metatron from Leonard. At first, she acts like she doesn't know what he's talking about, and Vincent almost has an aneurysm. But she was just joking. Of course she has the seal. Two can play at that game, asshole. He gives Heather a book which further explores the cult and how it deviated from Christian practices. But our main goal right now is to find the 5 tarot cards. In Alessa's room, Heather finds another memo written by Harry 17 years ago, prior to his final battle, beyond the locked door, and that his intention was not only to save Cheryl, but also Alessa, feeling a sense of empathy for the girl. In another room, which is exactly the same as Harry's at their apartment, Heather reads his journal. Harry had come to terms with Cheryl ceasing to exist, knowing that Heather was a reincarnation of Alessa. Harry never told Heather about her origins, worrying how she may react to the truth. Nonetheless, he loved Heather just as he loved Cheryl, and that may be a very heartwarming entry. However, if Heather reads Harry's other journal, the one Douglas gave to her before they left for Silent Hill, it's not exactly as heartwarming, and this is his entire confession to Heather. Harry recaps what happened in the first game, prior to and the aftermath. 24 years ago, Harry and his wife found a baby on the side of the highway. Since his wife was terminally ill and not having children of their own, they took the baby girl in. 3 years after adopting Cheryl, his wife died and another 4 years passed. When Cheryl begged Harry to take her to Silent Hill, unsure why she picked that location, he decided to take her there. Then of course the events of Silent Hill 1 play out, and Harry is given a new baby by Alessa, who would become Heather. Harry was an emotional wreck after that. He admits that he thought about abandoning Heather, but this was not like Harry at all, just a fleeting thought due to his overwhelming grief. Despite his initial reservations, he would raise Heather, just as he had raised Cheryl for 7 years. Everything was all right until a member of the cult attempted to take Heather away. Harry then killed him. And after all that, another 12 years would pass, and that's where Heather's story comes into play. Okay, so with that major revelation done and dusted, there are more optional tidbits of lore to explore. One is a cassette tape which Heather listens to. It's a recorded conversation between Vincent and another cult member. Some of the members were actually scared of Claudia and her piety. The member reveals that she heard that Heather was located and Vincent was not too excited, worrying about his lifestyle should paradise come to fruition. In a note, it's also revealed that Vincent was taking funds from the cult for his own benefit, as well as extorting the followers for more money. A journal entry from Claudia also states that after reading on the atrocities of humanity, she was disgusted by the world that failed her, which is why she became so obsessed about bringing paradise. She legitimately believed that she would be saved should that day come, coupled with the fact that her father was extremely abusive towards her. As an adult, Claudia became fixated on this ideation, dreaming of paradise and finally being saved from her own personal trauma. The last tidbit of lore delves into Alessa's childhood. As we know, Dahlia was a terrible mother, but Alessa's teacher tried to intervene and get involved in taking her away from her cruel household. Alessa's appearance at school was often described as disheveled, covered in bruises. Not only was her home life a living hell, school was no better. Being a member of the cult, she was cast out by her peers, bullied by the other kids. Alessa never knew kindness or love, and she was only 7 when she was sacrificed by her own mother. I am guessing this is why she allowed Harry to escape all of those years ago, because he was the complete opposite of what her mother was, a kind, loving parent. Okay, you still with me? Good, let's get the show on the road. After placing the tarot cards accordingly, the door in Alessa's room unlocks, and Heather witnesses a massive argument between Claudia and Vincent. The two bicker about God. Vincent firmly tells her to cut the bullshit. Meanwhile, Claudia is still spouting about paradise. She threatens Vincent to not get in her way, and that's when Heather shows up. Vincent then utters the best line.
Heather, go ahead and kill this crazy bitch.
But Claudia does not take kindly to insults and stabs Vincent. She then tells Heather that bringing paradise on Earth isn't about saving herself, but rather saving mankind. Nobody cares, Claudia. A dying Vincent tells Heather to use the seal of Metatron, but turns out it's just a piece of junk. And while in scripture, the seal of Metatron is said to be a powerful artifact. Unfortunately, in our case, it's useless. Claudia is amused by this, delivering a final blow to Vincent. Heather keels over, turning red and looking a bit bloated, but is able to control it. Now, the next part can be a bit confusing, as there is no indication on what to do next. In Alyssa's sick room, Heather read a book on Aglaphidus and its exorcising properties. The item that we need to use right now is the one that Heather had in her possession the entire time, the pendant that Harry gifted to her, which contains Aglaphidus. Looks like Harry stashed some in the locket as a failsafe. And now, get ready for the grossest moment. Heather ingests the liquid and pukes up the god fetus. Before Heather can stomp it, Claudia, the dirty bitch, picks it up and eats it, becoming the new birthing vessel. Oh, God. Claudia, babes, you're not looking too good. She falls down the hatch, and, this hole does look a bit concerning. Like a canal, if you will. Jumping down, Heather faces off with God. And it's not a simple boss fight, but since when did a little hellfire and bitch slapping stop us before? Finally defeating God, Heather gives it a swift kick and breaks down in tears. This is the first time that she's able to reflect on everything that has happened. Heather returns to the amusement park and pulls a knife on Douglas, but she's just joking. What is it with Silent Hill characters and jokes? Heather is convinced that she is now safe from the clutches of the cult. She decides to go with the name her father originally gave to her, Cheryl. In the final cutscene, Cheryl is seen paying her respects to Harry as the credits roll, but this isn't the end just yet. Just like in all of the Silent Hill games, there are multiple endings, and this game is no exception. The ending I just mentioned is the good normal ending. Most players will likely achieve this on their first playthrough. The good ending is also considered canon. As in Silent Hill Homecoming, it was revealed that Douglas survived and exposed the cult of Silent Hill. There are two more endings, the bad ending, titled Possessed, and of course, the secret UFO ending. To obtain the bad ending, Heather has to rack up her kill count, basically killing everything in her sight. The ending requires a score of 4,000 points in bad karma. Killing monsters rewards Heather with 10 points per kill, as well as taking damage. The biggest bad karma reward is worth 1,000 points, and that happens if Heather chooses to forgive the woman at the church. Once you've racked up the points needed and killed the final boss, we see the aftermath of Douglas's murder at the hands of Heather. It's pretty bleak, which is why I left the best ending last, the UFO ending. In order to unlock this ending, there's a grinding process. Heather needs to rack up a total of 333 kills, which can be done in multiple playthroughs. This unlocks a special attack known as the Heather Beam. You will know you've unlocked the requirement when Heather goes into the bathroom at the beginning of the game and see a halo on top of her head. Heather then needs to kill at least 30 monsters with the Heather Beam before arriving at her apartment. When she walks in, Harry is just chilling with the aliens, and James also makes a cameo. Heather tells Harry about everything that has happened to her. A pissed off Harry then decides to open a can of whoop-ass on Silent Hill. So they board the UFO and blow the town up to smithereens. As the credits roll, we are treated to this awesome karaoke track titled Silent Hill's Song, and I shit you not, this is possibly the best track in the entire franchise. Just look it up and listen to it in its entirety. You will not be disappointed. And unfortunately, this is where Heather's story comes to an end. This is by far my favourite entry in the entire franchise so far, and for good reason. It is terrifying, unrelenting, and knows when to throw in some good humour.
Oh, forget it. This is way too gross. Who would even think of doing something so disgusting?
Team Silent were truly ahead of their time when they blessed us with this absolute gem. In the next few weeks, we'll be wrapping up the trilogy with Silent Hill Origins. If you haven't yet, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm always open to suggestions on what to cover next, so drop a comment below. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one. Catch you in the other world.